But anyway, so the next question that I had to do with dependence. Now, I have had previously conversations with a friend of mine who's also pretty deep in treating opioid dependency with ibogaine, or he was, anyways. He was very deep. Now he is the chair for MAPS Canada. His name's Trevor Miller. And he was talking about how one of the consequences of opioid dependence is that the body no longer produces its own opioids, so that when you start to come off of it, then all of a sudden, even just standing, even the force of gravity inflicts pain on the body. Is something similar present? Like, what is the degree of dependence that can emerge with kratom use? Now, I know you won't be able to talk pharmacologically about this. You'd have to dip into maybe case reports or whatever, because usually outside of the research, it's all of kratom, like the whole plant, rather than the extracted alkaloids. But do we have a sense of what's happening with the dependence and the withdrawal from kratom in that sense?
So, yeah, you're exactly right. So outside of case reports, we don't really have a lot of data on even what the particular symptoms are with kratom withdrawal and dependence development. So let me take you a step back. A majority of people who take kratom will not develop tolerance or dependence to it. There are, at the moment, from what I've seen in the literature, we might have had, from reports that have been reported in the literature, we might have had maybe five to 10 case reports of dependence development.
Out of
And
how
that is
many? Out of how many? Because 5 to 10 out of 15 is like a pretty high amount, but 5 to 10 out of hundreds or thousands, that's different.
well, so we don't. Well, the problem is we don't know exactly. These are reported cases out of, we don't even know how many users there are exactly who are using kratom. The estimate ranges from 5, that are the number of active American Kratom Association members, to, when we look at kratom import volume based on Indonesian exports. So, these are all very, very, very loose estimates. Then we can go as high as 16 million people that are using kratom in the United States. And case reports are just the ones that are actually reported in the literature, out of
Okay, yes, I
the ones
understand. Yeah.
that are being, potentially treated and don't make it into the literature.
Right. So
So
I had the misunderstanding that you were talking about like a study that looked at all the reported use of kratom, but you're talking about specifically medical case reports of people coming in and they're having adverse effects with kratom.
correct,
Okay,
yeah. So
thank you for clarifying.
those yeah, those that are actually where somebody was going through kratom withdrawal and then they were treated with, for example, buprenorphine or naloxone or something like that, Narcan. So the from the case presentation, they range anywhere from descriptions of withdrawal symptoms that are like opioids, where they are presenting with pain, they are presenting with withdrawal symptoms like constipation and uh, mood swings and all the way to somebody who actually presented with a seizure because he was on, I guess, something like acute withdrawal from kratom. But then there are also milder cases where somebody was basically having craving for kratom and was having concerns that he might have become dependent on it, and was increasing his dose over time with kratom. And then the doctor was, or the physician was saying, okay, you are dependent on it. I want to switch you to buprenorphine in this case. So it's a very wide range. So it's very hard to tell what are the exact withdrawal symptoms. I would assume that similar to opioids, where you can also have a wide range of withdrawal symptoms, where depending on what the dose actually was, where somebody stands, and when they decide I've become dependent and I want to withdraw from it, that you then have to take appropriate action. If somebody is in acute withdrawal and they seizing up, or they are basically seizing up, they really have very severe symptoms, then naloxone and benzodiazepines would be the way to go. Now I'm talking very medical, I'm sorry. But if it's really like somebody is worried that they are developing a tolerance, they increasing their dose, and then they develop a dependence, and then they talk to their doctor, then maybe it's buprenorphine or methadone are the course of action to take. For me, it's always a question of if you put somebody on maintenance with buprenorphine or methadone. Yes, these are approved, and I understand that these are probably the best course of action. This is currently best practice, but you're basically switching somebody from one opioid to another opioid in this case.
Well, you're also you're taking them from. I mean, okay, this is a fallacy. This is a naturalistic fallacy, and I understand that. But you're taking them from a plant that they're taking, that has limited negative adverse effects, and you're putting them onto something that, like, reports of people who go on to methadone is like, you never come off methadone once you're on it. It's so difficult to detox from, and so pervasive in a person's life once they're on it. It becomes the new sort of like, it becomes the new addiction. Like, this is in some of the research and understanding I've had of watching people try to come off of heroin, come off of naloxone, and not naloxone, excuse me, Suboxone or methadone and stuff, that it's easier to detox from morphine than it is to detox from methadone. So it's also like, it's sort of a weird, sort of backwards way, I think, inside of like medical best practices to take somebody off of something like kratom and put them onto methadone, which they're now on likely for the rest of their lives. So that's it. I mean, I'm not asking you to comment on it. You could, but to me, it just seems like it seems very much like a strange backward way of approaching the issue.
Well, yeah, I think one issue is that the physician or the treatment that is currently best practice is it's potentially covered by insurance, so that's one benefit. The other one is that they are basically following medical best practices, and therefore they are there to do no harm. And currently, kratom is unregulated. Basically, the FDA says there's no medical indication for it, and therefore they are following, to some degree, their oath to do no harm. And if somebody's taking an unregulated product, then there is potential for harm. And so I can understand that the physician is going down that route. It's not necessarily that I disagree with you that, yes, we are potentially exposing somebody to a fate that they are going to be on this drug for the rest of their life. So when we talk about drug addiction in general, and I realize we're going into a philosophical discussion now, but drug addiction is, no matter if you are still taking the drug or if you are maintaining withdrawal or you're maintaining abstinence, it is a lifelong disorder. So I think that is something that we, as potentially somebody who has never had a drug addiction or a drug dependence or a substance use disorder, sometimes don't understand. I think that's something that we have to realize. But this is unrelated. It's a different topic from kratom.
Right. And also